Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Ben checking in with you guys. Sorry it's been a couple days since I've posted. Just been a kind of a busy, hectic, and incredible last couple days. But I hadn't forgotten about you guys. I wanted to make sure I got back on here and did the part 2 of my story to share with you guys. But I want to kind of go back and I want to say thank you to all of you who have commented, reached out, shared, watched my video about my battle with CHD, congenital heart disease, and CHF, congestive heart failure. I've read every comment, and I thank you guys for your support. I thank you guys for your encouragement. I thank you for just being a part of this journey. And I hope my video kind of that outline kind of what I've gone through from a medical perspective helped you. And I hope it's helped those who maybe have a loved one or they themselves are battling with any type of CHD or terminal chronic illness. I hope that it helped you and encouraged and inspired you as well. Today's topic is going to be a little more intense, a little more in your face, very real, very raw, just very intense, like I mentioned. Now, this topic I don't mind discussing because it's also a part of what's made me who I am today. So you guys know I battled for 41 years with a chronic heart condition. And most people, when they hear that, they're like, man, my God, Ben, you've been through some stuff. You've been through it. Wow. And my knee-jerk reaction to that is, yeah, but that's not even the tip of the iceberg. Like, we're not even scratching the surface. And they're like, really? And then when I share this next part that I'm about to share with you here in a minute or two, the reaction is very common, and they're just like, what? They look at me and they think, and they're like, how? So let me give you some backdrop into part 2. I'm going to kind of lay the foundation for you guys. And my hope, again, is to encourage, to inspire, to give you a reason to believe and a reason to have hope. And again, for these videos, it's also to glorify God. It's also to point people to Christ through my journey and to be a voice and an inspiration for you guys as well. So let's get into part 2 of my story. And this topic is very sensitive in nature, in the fact that most people have a hard time talking about it, especially guys, especially men, I believe. And the topic today is going to be centered around overcoming abuse, more specifically, sexual abuse trauma. But let me go back and again lay the foundation groundwork for this video. I was raised by both my parents, biological parents. My biological dad, I call him by his first name, Barry. He was very demonstrative. Let's just put it that way. He had a full grasp and handle on the family in a way that wasn't necessarily appropriate. He was very controlling. He was very manipulative, very militant in who he was. No military background, but just very militant in who he was, his demeanor, his character, all that. I was raised, me and my siblings, I'm the oldest of 3, were raised in a primarily religious home. We were brought up in the church. We were all brought up in the church. But it was a very religious setting. Very controlled religious setting. You know, growing up, I was going in and out of the hospital and dealing with my health and things of that nature. And There are several instances that I remember Barry, when I was growing up, would get angry and things of that nature. Just things I remember that my mom actually goes back and goes, "You remember that?" I'm like, "Yeah." It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. But in 1989, my family and I were living in Tennessee, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at the time. And Barry, my biological dad, began talking to me about sex and things of that nature. Now, at 9 years old, I'm not thinking anything of it. He's asking me, "Hey, when you get older and you get interested in a girl, you need to wear a condom and things of this and that." And I'm like, "Okay." At 9, I'm like, at 9 years old, I'm like, "Okay, sure, whatever, Dad, whatever you say," right? Little did I know what that conversation was actually doing to me, or where it was actually ultimately going to lead to. About a year and a half later from that conversation, we were living in Tennessee. Flash forward about a year and a half, living in Southern Oregon, in Coos Bay, North Bend, and on the Southern Oregon coast in Oregon. It was the winter of 90 going into 91. And Barry, I remember one night, came into my room, like he did every night for me and my sibling, and tucked us in, gave us good night, hugs, kisses, all that stuff. Prayed with us, the stuff that he normally would do. But that night was different. I remember looking outside my window. We lived in a 2-story house, and I remember looking out my upstairs bedroom window at the moon. And I saw this image in the moon. This facial image. At the time, I thought it was Moses. Honestly, I thought it was the face of Moses. But now, as I've gotten older, I've realized that was the face of Jesus, letting me know that what was about to happen, in a way, that he was going to be right there with me through it. And this part of my story, I've never shared with anybody. I've never shared it publicly. But I remember looking at the moon and seeing this facial structure. And I remember looking at it going, that's odd. But then I just kind of felt, okay, everything's good. Well, that night, Barry, my biological dad, began sexually abusing, began sexually molesting, began sexually raping me. About 10 and a half at the time. And this would go on until I was 16. So for 5.5 years. This would happen about 3 times a week. About two to three times each time. So we're talking multiple times of being abused. Like I said, this would go on for the next nearly 5.5 years. Every time he was done abusing me, he would have me open up the Bible, pray, and ask for forgiveness for what he had just done to me, as if to say it was my own fault that it was happening to me. You know, we went to church like a great Christian family on Sunday, but as soon as we pulled out that church parking lot, the gloves literally came off. From the age of 10 to the age of 16, it was like living in a prison. Like I said, my biological dad, he was very controlling, very demonstrative, very manipulative. Not only did he sexually abuse me, he physically abused me, emotionally abused me, spiritually abused me, verbally abused me. He was also domestically violent to my mom. like I said, this went on for a period of about 5.5 years. Under Barry's reign, as I like to call it, we weren't allowed to show emotion. He just kind of took it, just sucked it up, moved on, dealt with it. Yes, I can hear the questions already. Yes, he was still abusing me while I was going through all the hard stuff. The ironic thing was, though, was that when I would have something major come up with my health, that would be the one thing that would reel him back into reality. That would be the one thing that would grab his attention and get him focused off of his hellacious ways. I remember times, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, back in '89, right before or right after, shortly after he started grooming me. I had just had my third open heart surgery in '89 at Vanderbilt Medical there in Nashville, Tennessee. And I remember being in mine and my siblings in my brother's bedroom, and he covered me up with blankets and pillows, and he tried smothering me just after having open heart surgery shortly before that. So he began to do things to me physically before the sexual abuse happened. I didn't realize it, what he was really trying to do, until obviously later. Fast forward to, I want to say, '93, just after my fourth open heart surgery. I smarted off to him, said something to him, and I had just had my fourth open heart surgery a few months earlier. And he literally gut punched me right here. So right here. Well, my scar on my chest goes from here to about here. You see the proximity of that? He knew where to hit just below my scar so that it wouldn't kill me. When I say I was abused in every facet that you can think of, I mean it. Barry was eventually turned in and arrested in August of '96. He is 25 years into a 26-year sentence. And I hate to report this, but he will be out next August of 2022. He has done day for day. No good time, no anything like that. Just straight day for day. I get a lot of questions of, well, did your mom know? Mom had some ideas. In fact, in April of '96, Barry, my biological dad, went to her and admitted everything to her. And he swore up and down that he was going to go get help. In fact, my mom actually came and questioned me and asked me about it. And I said no. And the reason why I said no was because when I was 11 years old, Barry had threatened to hurt me or do serious damage to me or even kill me if anything ever got back to him. So I wasn't about to say a damn thing. So I told her no. And I remember my mom going to me and saying, Ben, if you don't feel comfortable talking to me, you can talk to Pastor Jim, who was my youth pastor at the time, or my counselor at North Bend High School at the time. Nothing was said for 4 months until the night before he was arrested, when he went absolutely ballistic, threatened to kill me, came after me, and by the grace of God, I was able to escape his terror. And that the next day he was arrested. My mom and I turned him in. After that, I went through a period of anger, through a period of a lot of anger where I essentially looked at my mom and my two younger siblings and said, F you. I don't need you guys. I'm going to do me, and that's just what it's going to be. Hindsight being what it was, I should never have done that. I was 16. I was angry. And I was, for the first time, really experiencing real, raw emotion. And I didn't handle it very well. Yes, I've been through counseling. I did 9 months of intense counseling following his arrest. And I've done counseling here and there since then. I often get asked, did it faze me from a sexual perspective? I get asked, did it create any confusion? And honestly, I would say no. Did I ever wonder when I was younger? Sure. But nothing to the point of pursuing anything that would be outside of God's will. You know, I'm a Christian, and I believe what God's word says about those type of things. But for me, I went through a season of anger, and I went through a season of hatred and self-doubt. He made me feel unworthy. Barry spoke word curses, as I call them, over me all the time. Told me I was never good enough, told me I would never amount to anything, told me I was a failure. I was an embarrassment to my last name. I was this, that, the other thing. And for me, for the next, let's say 7 years, I battled with depression. I battled with anger. I battled with suicidal thoughts. I battled with discovering who I was. And it wasn't until September of 2003 that I went to a youth conference at my church at the time. And I remember specifically looking at my youth pastor and saying, the only way that I am going to get free from all this garbage and all this crap that I went through with Barry is if I experience the love of a true father from God himself. And I remember going to this, what we called a youth retreat or a youth encounter. And I remember telling Luke Huck this, who was my youth pastor and a good friend at the time. And I remember the next day we were talking, and I remember the pastor, Pastor Brad, talking about how God views us. And then he had us all close our eyes, and he said, I want you guys to close your eyes, and I want you to say the first thing out loud that comes to your mind that God sees you as, or that comes to your heart that God sees you as. Well, the word loved came to my mind, and I'm like, nope, I'm not saying it. I was like, man, it's just probably myself. It's just probably because I've just wanted this, I've desired this, but it's just probably myself. So I didn't say it. Well, it became louder. It became stronger. And so at that point, I knew it wasn't me. It was God letting me know that I am loved. And I said it. I spoke it out loud, and I broke. I wept for like the next 45 minutes. And for the first time in my entire life, I was 23 at the time. For the first time in 23 years, I felt the love of a true father. And I don't think that moment would have happened if a moment previous to that, in January of 97, would not have happened. So let me take you back to 97, in January of 97. This is about 5 months after Barry's have been arrested. We were at a church service, at our church, a worship service on a Friday night. I will never forget this night for as long as I live. We were at a church service, and there was a worship concert that night. And at the end, the pastor, who was a part of a local church, another local church in the area, said, "Hey, I want to talk to you guys about forgiveness." And so he went into this, I think it was maybe like a 10-minute topic on forgiveness. And he says, "Hey, if you're by yourself, get with somebody. If you're with some people, talk to some people next to you. And if you feel like, and if God put someone on your heart to forgive, I want you to forgive them tonight." Well, the first person that came to my mind was Barry, my biological dad. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to forgive him. Hell no, I'm not going to forgive him. And then something happened. And I will never forget this. The Holy Spirit spoke to me. And he said, "Ben, if you do not love and forgive your dad in the same manner in which that I love and forgive you, then it defeats the whole reason why I even sent my son to die." Let me repeat that. Ben, if you do not love and forgive the very man who stole your childhood, stole your innocence, molested, raped, beat, verbally beat, abused you in every way, if you don't love and forgive him in the same manner that I love and forgive you, then it defeats the whole reason why I even sent my son to die. And guys, that rocked me. That still rocks me to this day. And that night I began to forgive Barry. I began to walk through that forgiveness. And then, so let's fast forward back to 2003 in September. I felt that love of a true father. I believe that event in January of 97, if that event had gone differently, I don't think the event in September of 03 would have happened. In September of 03, that healing, that forgiveness became more closed, meaning I got more closure. And I was able to fully forgive him for what he had done. There have been instances over the years where forgiveness was needed to be brought up. Things would pop up and I need to forgive him again and again and things of that nature. But I can tell you today, Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021, I can tell you today that I have fully forgiven him. I have prayed for him. I have released him to God. And I pray that he allows God to come into his life and to reset him in a way that God could hopefully use him. And I know many of you may be saying, "Well, man, why would you do that? Why would you pray for him? Why would you forgive him?" Because if I don't love and forgive him in the same manner that God loves and forgives me, then it defeats the whole purpose. But also, the whole purpose of why God sent his son. But also, the forgiveness isn't for him, it's for me. The forgiveness is for me. It's for my freedom, my joy, my peace, my sanity, my victory, not for him. Does he deserve my forgiveness? That's debatable. But the Bible talks about forgiving those who hurt you. Does he deserve it? Does he justifiably qualify for it? No, none of us do. But again, the forgiveness isn't about him. The forgiveness is about me and me being free and me being happy and joyful and full of love and full of life. It's not for him, it's for me. And so, for me, this is just another part of my story, another part of my journey. And I really hope that this video has really encouraged you, has really strengthened and maybe challenged you in a way. And I want you to know that if you have questions, please drop them in the comments. Please reach out to me directly, because I know this is a very sensitive topic. I know this is a very hard topic to address, but it's a part of my story. It's a part of my journey. It's a part of what has made me me. From the health, now talking about the abuse that I suffered as a child. It's all created the person that you see today or you hear today. It's made me stronger. It's made my walk with God stronger. It's made over years my relationship with my family stronger. And so I hope that this video today really helps, really encourages, really touches you. I know I went a little bit over today, but I pray it really ministers to you. I pray it really touches you, and I pray it encourages. I pray it inspires. I pray it gives you a reason to believe and a reason to have hope. And please reach out to me if you have questions or anything. Please reach out to me. I want to be here for you. I want to be a voice for you. I want to be an advocate for you. I love you guys. Have a great day. It's your boy Ben.